All right, I got to back out, guys. I'm sorry.
Hello, friends and brothers. Welcome to Masonic Improvement Live this Sunday, March the 1st of 2026. Am I the only one that just feels old every time I say 2026? Being
Um,
a guy from, growing up in the 70s and 80s, golly, that was a long time ago now. That's kind of crazy. But anyways, welcome to the show, everybody, and I'm glad to see that Tom and Jeff and Josh and Byron are here with me so far. Um, Tonight, I wanted to touch on a few things and I don't. It's not the only thing that I want to talk about tonight, but I wanted to touch on a few things that we have certainly talked about many times on the show, and and now we're hearing it from Grand Lodge as well after hearing the Grand Master's uh, dis- presentation the to all the brothers at the Grand Master's conference. I really enjoyed it. It's actually stuff that he and I has talked about over dinner several years back, and I want to know what you guys think of it because I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is there anything that stands out to any of you on what the Grandmaster is talking about this year?
well, if you don't mind, I'll go say something real quick.
You go right ahead.
As hearing it for the second time, because I went to his one in Nacogdoches as well, and then hearing this one this weekend, I can tell you for a fact it's obviously he's kind of ad libbing as he's going, looking at the deal, so it's not exactly the same, but it's 99.9% identical to what he said in Nacogdoches, and there it's very eye opening to think about the things he brings to light because, as you said, as most of us on this podcast are like minded and have the same opinion of those certain things. Um, I can tell you for a fact that I have those same feelings for uh, one of my lodges that I belong to. I won't say it right now because I don't want to bring it up, but most people know what I'm talking about. And it's a fact. It's the problem is that we as Masons do not want to address the hard question. The hard question is are we doing any good service to anyone in Masonry by trying to keep all of these different lodges alive and not focusing on the Mason himself versus the lodge. Does that make
That's
sense?
yes,
Mm.
and I'll expand upon that a little bit because it I was talking to a brother about that earlier today. He called me and we were talking. He's if tradition prevails, he'll be worshipful master next year, and or this year I should say. And we were we were basically talking about that we we overextend ourselves in all these lodges trying to keep them alive instead of honing in on one lodge and making it really great. We're busy with multiple lodges trying to get things done. We get spread thin, our resources get spread thin. And not only that, but then it just becomes a an effort of chasing your tail trying to keep up with the busy work that has been created over the years by, you know, members of the past that nobody wants to let go of because they don't really know for sure what they're supposed to be doing otherwise, if that makes sense. Bueller.
Well, well, it's one of those. It's like I agree with you. It doesn't even right now. Let me rephrase that. Let me back up. Hang on. Let me think about this for a second. Before I got in line as an officer in Goliad, when I was still just a baby master mason, and I still am, by the way, because I'm only in this for almost 6 years. So I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
But even before I got in the line as senior deacon and then moved to junior warden and learning these things, I was questioning, why are we members of multiple different lodges and all of this? And then I would go to these lodges and visit and would see that they would, I don't want to say have the same quality as Goliad, right? But they didn't, I mean, it's the same people and it was less of us.
Same
So I'm
people,
like,
same
why?
mentality.
Exactly. So why are we trying to keep this running when we could, why wouldn't it make more sense for us to shut down and go? So even as a young master mason, I was already questioning that. But now, as I've progressed through the chairs in the position I am in today, I even have more of the question is, why do we have brothers that belong to 7 different lodges? If you belong to 7 different lodges, I don't understand it. I mean, I belong to 3, and I'm fixing to back out of 2 of them, I think, at some point. Not right now, but it's like, why are you a member of so many? Now I get if you're a member of Tranquility Lodge or Texas Lodge of Research, that's different, right? But if you're a member of 7 different blue lodges, which I know for a fact we do have one brother that is like that, and Dennis, you know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
He just thinks that he's trying to keep him alive, but why are you trying to keep him alive other than for your own glory of look at me, look what I'm doing, I'm keeping this lodge alive, when really what you're doing is you're killing masonry in the area instead of taking those brothers and bringing them to a lodge that is actually active and making that lodge more cohesive and more active as lodges and be able to do things like that instead of just the mom and pop knife and fork. We just want to meet because we want to have dinner together. Well, I can do that at Taqueria. I don't have to go to lodge to do that.
Right. Well, to play devil's advocate, for and not that it's how I feel about it necessarily, but there are, um, and I can tell you at first when I joined different lodges, there was a specific reason I did, but then it got to a point to where I wanted to support the lodge I was spending most of the time my time with, and that's why I would contribute to that lodge. But it in a lot of instances, like there's several past Grand Masters that you can see their name on the roster of your lodge and see all the different lodges they're affiliated with, and some of them are 15, 20 different lodges, which is just crazy in my opinion. However, I think what some people do, they're trying to experience these different lodges and understand the culture of the different Masons around Texas. So that's one reason why people do it. But you're right. For the general Mason that is a member of 7 different lodges, that's overkill. And really, you know, how how awesome do you think one lodge would be if everybody was a member of just that one lodge and spent all those resources on that one lodge? I mean, if you think about it, that person, I'm pretty certain, has endowed memberships to all 7 lodges, right? If even at
Yep.
the minimum amount of 500, if it was all centered around one lodge, I mean, you're talking about $3,500 endowment to one lodge. So that would, hey Larry, can you mute your microphone? There you go. Thank you, buddy. Um, that how beneficial would that be to that lodge to receive that kind of an endowment instead of the measly $500 one, and then not receiving any other benefit except for somebody showing up to um, tell everybody what to do. Because that's another thing that comes with those endowments and those multiple lodges is those brothers tend to want to tell everybody how Freemasonry ought to be because they're supporting all the
Yep,
lodges.
exactly. And they think they're the ones in charge of everything. It's like, well, no, you're not. It's thank you for your service and we appreciate your help, but at the same time, it's like you're not in charge of this.
It's always the will of the
You
lodge.
exactly. But even as a worshipful master, if you're sitting there trying to line things up and do this and do that and everything like that, and they're trying to, oh no, you need to do it this way. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for your advice, but I am the worshipful master. I'm wearing the hat. We're gonna do it this way and see if it works. If it works, it's great. If it don't, it don't. But it's like
there
I can't.
there's nothing worse than someone that undermines the task at hand. When you've got a new worshipful master coming in and he's got some ideas that he would like to try to implement, not change everything, just add a little bit of different value to the lodge experience, and then somebody undermines that that uh, that effort. There's nothing worse than that in a lodge.
No, 100%. I mean, that just kills it right there. It's I know of a situation that happened back during last installation season that a brother kind of got sideways with something, and I won't go into too much detail, but you know, the brothers of the lodge thought he was going to be on fire and gung ho and do it, and then when that all came to fruition, it just cut him in half, and he's like took it personal, like, well, they're just out to get me, so why am I even going to do anything now? So, and put a damper on his light that he was going towards to do and move the lodge forward in a great direction, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, we see that a lot when brothers are coming back from officer leadership training. They come back with all these great ideas. I mean, that's what it's for. That's why we send our brothers, well, like Goliad and, you know, the most of the lodges that I belong to, we pay for the brother to two brothers to go every year to officer leadership training, and that's why we pay them, is for those great ideas, for that fresh perspective, and then lo and behold, we dampen their spirits as soon as they get back from OLT, and you know,
Yep.
not everybody
Or
does,
you could
but
be like me and just you could be like me and I got all the ideas and I'm like, I don't care who you are, I'm gonna do what I want.
you're right. That's kind of how I felt too when
And I pretty much did, and I think it went pretty well.
right. Anybody else got anything on this? Now, we don't have to keep talking about this particular scenario because that's just one of the different talking points. And don't get me wrong, the Grand Master was not harping on everybody for doing that. What he did was he showed the change of the culture of Freemasonry in Texas over this 100-year period, and it was very accurate. And that's the discussion that I had with him a few years ago, was all about this change. But that's I really love it that he actually showed everybody all the different points that affected uh, our lodge experience as we know it today. What you got, Larry? I saw that you were wanting to say something.
Yes, I'm not going to have too much to say because I'm kind of hoarse. But I did see on Facebook quite a few of y'all were at San Antonio at the commemoration for the Alamo, and I was there. I was looking for y'all, but I didn't see them. But hey, there's a lot of people there to pick from. So anyway, I'm not going to talk too much, but I listened.
Nice. And that's an excellent point. There was a lot of people at the in San Antonio on Saturday, yesterday.
Yes, there was.
There was approximately 250 people in San Antonio. Now I noticed about 80 or 90 of them that were in the conference first thing in the morning, and and that was awesome, seeing the room filled, seeing our ballroom filled the way it was. And in
Yep.
fact, it's probably more than 80 or 90 because that's a pretty big ballroom. that we have down there in the Scottish Rite. It's the biggest ballroom in San Antonio. And,
I say there was over. I say there was over 100 Master Masons in that room.
yes,
Just people sitting down and then everyone standing up because we sat for too long and the chairs were very uncomfortable, by the way, and then all that. But the cool thing was, I thought, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, but when he asked for all the worshipful masters, current sitting worshipful masters, to get up and go take a picture, I think there was like 30 or 40 of us that were able to go over there, and we had
yep.
that many worshipful masters there in at the conference, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yes, it was. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah. I was in the lodge room when the worshipful master opened the lodge for the purpose of doing what we needed to do, and he must have been on a time crunch. But I tell you what, I've never
Are you
seen
talking
him.
about when he opened the representation at Grand Lodge?
Yes,
Oh my
God.
God, I was in there too, Larry. That was a okay. This is the funniest thing ever. And without going into too much detail, he would go like this, and we gotta go out here. Like if you ever heard an auctioneer going, that's how he was
Yeah,
going. When
yeah.
he did the reps, he went like it was like that, and it was
That's funny.
hilarious. And
And
was
and, and,
right
and
after the prayer, it was that's how fast they were going.
Yeah,
It
wham
yeah,
was
bam, thank you, ma'am.
It was crazy fast. And then we
yeah,
got done. He went, "We're closed," and we all left. It was it was crazy how fast he did that. And I can even talking with Roy on the way home today. He's like, "I don't think I've ever heard a human speak that fast." It was, it was fast, very
Yeah,
fast.
and in Goliad, we see the representation opened up almost every year. Not every year, but almost every year. And so you definitely have a unique perspective because you've seen it 6 years in a row and know how it's usually done and definitely know that it was a quick one.
It was it was definitely it was the I think it was the fastest lodge I've ever seen open, ever. Not just Grand Lodge, representation Grand Lodge, fastest lodge ever.
Right? Yeah, and now going to that, if you're listening to this, I know that he would only do that in a matter of trying to expedite what needed to be done in the day for all the official things that had to be done in the day, because there is a strict timeline when you're dealing with the Alamo and getting over there, marching over, and all that kind of stuff. Um, but that's one of the things that we shouldn't cut corners on is how we open and close a lodge, because that ritual is extremely important, because we are preparing ourselves, um, not just not just physically, but we're preparing ourselves mentally and spiritually for the work that we're to do in the temple. And so for all you worshipful masters out there, slowing it down is the better way to go when it comes to ritual. Um,
Yeah, and it was weird because this is the first time I've been to Alamos observant, so I thought opening a representation was the normal process, kind of like we did in Goliad, right? Well, it wasn't, and what I guess it was part of the program that we were doing on Saturday, which was quite full, by the way. But they installed a DDGM at large, and that's why they opened up the representation for him to be installed as DDGM.
yeah,
And so
that's
I
pretty
think
cool.
that was, and it was cool to see it and everything. And I don't know if the brother was shocked or knew it was coming, but I mean, it was funny because we were sitting there and he was Grandmaster started doing the obligation with he wanted to put on his apron and he went, "Let the marshal do that. You stand there and put your hand over your heart and listen to me real quick."
Right.
So, but I don't know if that was like a part of the program or maybe it was just kind of inserted at the in the process. But I think that's why that was
No, he
such
did
a rush
that.
because we were trying to get in there.
He did that in Dallas as well at the festive board, and
Oh yeah,
there he did open up a representation, but it was done by proclamation, so it wasn't done in normal fashion because we were in the halls, the state hall in Dallas, the Hall of
right.
State. So it was open by proclamation there. But yeah, I think that that's something that he wants to do at um, a lot of his events is making the DDGMs at large, which is very cool because that's a special position. Being chosen as a DDGM at large is a it's a unique honor and privilege to be able to serve in that fashion.
Yep.
So that's cool that he's making that opportunity, at the different events that he has, at the different conferences that he has. That's awesome. Now, did any of that information that he talked about surprise any of y'all? Have all of y'all seen? Has everybody here seen one of the Grandmasters conferences this year?
I have not. The ours is coming up in about 4 weeks in the Beaumont area.
Oh,
We're
okay.
following Houston. Houston and Beaumont is on the 28th of March.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nice.
I'll be at the Houston one for the third time.
Well, y'all are gonna like it. You're gonna like it for sure. I guarantee you will. So I don't. I guess we can't give away too much, um, but the presentation that he gives, it'll be the same because it's done by by slides. He's doing it off of slides, but he does vary with what he says a little bit. He does do that impromptu. So
And from what I understand, it was Master Masons only. Is it a tiled thing?
yes,
Awesome.
yes,
Okay.
Yeah, it's for Master Masons, and there is no program for anybody else. I mean, typically they have a deal for the wives, I believe, but when you hear the data and the information he's bringing to the conference, you will understand why it's only for Master Masons.
yeah. Yeah, that's the stuff that he's talking about. It doesn't even EAs and fellow crafts don't even need to worry about it. It's really what Master Masons need to be thinking about. So on top of that, there was a dinner over at Kindle Lodge. What'd you think about that? That's a neat lodge. I like that lodge. I've actually spoken at that lodge before. You went to that, didn't you, Josh?
No, we were planning on going, and we got invited to do a few other things with some brothers there and have lunch. So we decided to not stay in our suit all day and go have lunch with a few other brothers that have a great conversation about things.
Nice. So I'm looking at the conversations online right now, and normally I have Brad Hoff and Daniel Dutton here to help with those conversations, but they're some of them are kind of out there. The We've got an Amanda Claire here that's saying some things. Something when I found out that level 27 you were worshiping Yoda. Yeah, that's not exactly, or that was Vast Thinker. That's not exactly accurate. That has no that there's no room for Yoda in Freemasonry. Um. All right, so moving on.
Well, I mean, don't knock Yoda.
No, no, but I don't have anything bad to say about Yoda. That's my generation, but there's no room for Yoda in Freemasonry. Yeah, it wasn't you, Amanda Claire. It was Vast Thinker. And Freemasonry is not a networking club. So I'm watching this chat because there's some sidetracking going on there that's not actually accurate with what Freemasonry is. Does anybody want to tell the folks what Freemasonry is, or do you want me to? Come on, one of you guys can do it. Don't leave it just to me.
All right. What it is, if you're
I
if you're
will
looking at
critique you
the
on it though.
absolutely critique, correct, do all of the stuff that you are so good at, Dennis, and make sure I stay on track. Um, I was at a service today, and the master of that service held up 5 fingers. So there are 5 things that we do. We preach honesty, integrity, brotherly love, faith, and charity. Those are our, I don't want to use the phrase principal tenets, but I'm having a hard time coming up with a better explanation for it right here off the top of my head.
Yeah,
What we are,
those are definitely positive attributes of Freemasonry for sure.
and here's the thing, the corollary that he drew, that particular master, was that these are the same, I'll use the term again, principal tenets that Christianity preaches. The difference between Masonry and any other faith based school of thought is that we take the tools of ancient, honorable Freemasons, the plumb, the level, the square, and um,
The gavel,
we use those, the gavel,
the rule.
the
Yep.
the rule. Thank you. We use those tools as Masons, as allegories, to differentiate in our lives how we are going to apply those 5 principal tenets. You know, we use a rule to divide our time. We use a gavel to represent removing those parts of ourselves that are not in keeping with God's will for us. We use the level to indicate that we are all meeting upon the level. Every man, every person has the same call to um, our good intentions. Uh, we use the square to keep our actions square. I don't know how better to put that.
Squared by the
Um,
square of virtue.
correct. Thank you. I wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, in the plumb, to be upright, before God and our fellow man, and to leave no doubt as to what our intentions are in all of our interactions with all of the people we meet throughout the day. It's not a it's not just a club to get together and have dinner and raise money for various causes. It's an opportunity for us to to take these tools of ancient Freemasonry and figure out how to utilize them every single day in our lives, and not just make ourselves better men in the process, but to have a positive impact on all of the people that we come in contact with every single day.
That's a good explanation. It really is. The the well, the only thing that I would add to that is that, when we're talking about um, when we're discussing the temple and King Solomon's temple and the rebuilding of the temple and you know and the like, we're talking about ourselves and rebuilding our temple. And the beautiful thing about Freemasonry is that you don't have to prescribe to a specific religion to be a Mason. You do have to believe in God, but you don't have to prescribe to the Christian belief or Judaism or Taoism or Buddhism. I mean, you just don't have to. Um, but you do have to believe that there's a divine will that you're taking part of within your life. Because if you don't believe in that simple fact, then who can you ever be held accountable to in when it all comes down to the nitty gritty? So we use all those working tools to help ourselves to become more altruistic in nature. And altruism, if for for those of the listeners out there that don't know, altruism is the state of helping others at the sacrifice of yourself. So you're sacrificing of yourself to help others. It's basically what Jesus did. Even if you're not a Christian, you can appreciate the stories and in the Bible relating to Jesus, because what he's teaching and preaching is how to live life in an altruistic nature, which is really, it's unachievable in this lifetime because of our own human natures that work against us. And that's also the original sin that people talk about with Adam. Though I'm not going to get into what my beliefs are, but I don't necessarily believe that it's original sin. I think that we just have life that works against us, and those are the things that, and it's our own selfish desires, and whether it's looking for a feeling of accomplishment or looking for a feeling of patting ourselves on the back for something, you know, it's hard for us to live in that mode of don't let the right hand know what the left hand is doing. It's hard for us to live that way. And so our goal is working towards that so that we can be the best human being we can be to for ourselves and for our maker, and represent the good in divine will. I think that I think with those two definitions, it's probably, or those two explanations, that's probably pretty good. Did
But
anybody
you
else
left
have
out all the
anything?
fish fries, Dennis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Speaking of fish fries, no, I'm just playing.
oh my gosh. Yeah, the fish fries are something that happen a lot within our lodges, because we're Texans and we like to fish and we're good at it. And there's definitely good opportunity to fellowship and visit with one another and get to know each other and things like that within that dynamic. But yeah, the fish fries aren't necessarily what Freemasonry is teaching us.
Well, and I will say this, and I say this in the lightest hearted way possible. It's hard to build that temple not made with hands when your hands are covered in oil from fish fries.
Fish batter, fish batter.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things that has hurt Freemasonry over the years, and because it I understand why people do it, but it over the years, since the 50s and 60s, we the culture back then was to gather and uh, do social clubs, and everybody belonged to one of the animal clubs, right? They all belonged to the Lions Club, they all belonged to the Elks, they all belonged to, name your animal club. And then they were also all on the same bowling league together, and because they all lived in the same suburb together, because that was the time of the big expansion of suburbs, and everybody was gathering in their backyards, having social aspects, and then they were meeting at the bowling alley, they were meeting at the animal club. So why not be a Mason also? That coupled with the influx of brothers that came in from World War II. I mean, that was a rough period, and they needed a sense of belonging. And that's how the VFWs were formed, and things like that. All that was formed back in that time, and we had such a huge population of and success in our nation that there were a ton of people that were joining all these clubs, and people had money to spend on things. That's also when all these hospitals started shooting up everywhere for the Shriners and Scottish Rite, and name your different um, charitable hospital, and that was affected during that time as well. All of so during that time, it was a big social there was a big social aspect to it, and people lost the sight of Freemasonry, and they were focused more on the social aspect and the fellowship. But we kind of lost sight of what Freemasonry was actually for, which was um, to become enlightened by applying these certain principles to our lives, and getting closer to the Maker, as close as we can get to our Maker before we leave this earth. So it's been it's been different the last 100 years, because that was a big generation, and we still have those brothers in our lodges, and we definitely don't want to make them feel like they don't belong, because they very definitely do, and they kept these lodges going for us to have this opportunity. So we should definitely pay them homage, and and care for them just as much as they cared for the people before them. But yeah, Freemasonry kind of got lost in the shuffle with during that time period. So it's hard to
I
get.
would add
Chat
to
GPT is
one
not
of those
always going to be
comments.
correct in what they say. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of those comments that just popped up on the YouTube there says, so it's basically your church. And I just want to reinforce very clearly and plainly that Freemasonry is not a religion. The lodge or any of the temples is not a church. Uh, we were just a group of people that have a like-minded attitude towards the community, um, and we want to improve our community by improving ourselves, and then we can have a much better reach out in the community. But similar to some religions, it does have a moral aspect, but there is no uh, creator in Freemasonry. We talk about the great architect of the universe, but every individual has in their heart what that great architect represents. Like was mentioned earlier, it's not specific to any one religion. So it could be that when somebody says the great architect, some people are thinking of the Christian God or the Abrahamic God. Some people may be thinking of an Eastern religious God. It's all varies. But it's definitely not a church.
Right. Yeah, that's I'm glad that you made that point, because while we are dealing with things that affect our spiritual selves, it's definitely not a church. Freemasonry is not a church. I saw another
Yeah,
one on here. Go ahead.
specifically a fraternity. It is Freemasonry is the world's oldest and largest fraternity across all time immemorial. Um, and you were talking earlier, Dennis, about the guys um, who felt that it could be or should be a social club, and I think that is a very important aspect that we can't minimize that at all. The social aspect of having the lodge as a third place as in not work, not home. It would be a third place. Other examples of the third place would be the church, or a bar, or any of the animal social club halls. Those are all good third places, and we need third places just as a general rule to help. Humans are social animals. We have to socialize amongst each other. And back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, if you wanted to talk to somebody, if you wanted to see how your friend was doing, you had to meet them somewhere, um, or go to somebody's house, and that can be kind of imposing if you're going to somebody's house all the time. But inviting people over for dinners, barbecue on the weekend, those are things that happened. And we see, especially after COVID, that that's not happening anymore. With the internet, the advent of the internet, you know, I can just get on social media. I can look on Facebook and see how everybody in this group is doing. I can send a comment out to the inner circle group and get people's thoughts on that. But having that face to face interaction is key, and that's going to lead towards mentorship. And that mentorship, especially if you've got a mentor that is looking at the esoteric aspect of it, is really, that's how we grow. I mean, we can all do our best to study and contemplate everything that we do, whether it's the degrees, the symbols, the reading. All that stuff is great to contemplate, but until you have a sounding board with another individual, whether it's a like-minded individual or somebody else that just understands the thing, right? We don't want to be in an echo chamber with all like-minded individuals, but being able to share and participate in the discourse and have those thoughts shared and bounced off other. For us, it's a brother. Um, I mean, that's how we grow. It's not it's not learning by reading. It's learning by using rhetoric and the Socratic method and questioning everything.
Right. Yeah, that's imperative. We get iron sharpens iron, right? And so that's imperative that we utilize rhetoric. I mean, heck, that's why we're on here doing the live each week, so that we can discuss these things, these different topics, and help each other to grow as individuals. Amanda asked earlier, why so secretive? Amanda Clara Goat. Um, I like that goat on there. um, but why so secretive? And we definitely have secrets, but the the reason why is because not everybody's going to understand. If Freemasonry is an experiential um, system that you have to go through to truly understand the how the working tools are used and how we are to apply them to our daily lives. It's not something you can just read online and then all of a sudden get it. It's 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 through that initiatic experience with the master to the apprentice mentorship relationship that you're able to learn and grow. And if we told everybody everything that happened within Freemasonry, um, and if we let everybody join that had any interest or inclination to you know look further into it, then it would water down uh, what we're really about, and we don't want to do that. We have to protect it. The secrets are initiatic in nature, and we don't want to divulge that information because, well, it will lessen the experience. When a man becomes a mason, or I should say a man or a woman, because um, there are lodges with women in them in Mexico, as well as like in Colorado and England. There's different lodges are that are women only. But if 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 you read about all the different things that you're going to go through before you go through it, then the initiatic experience doesn't have quite the same impact, in my opinion.
So I'll jump in.
There you go, Jeff.
Um,
I was waiting on you.
yeah, yeah, it's been a, I'm in the middle of it, man. It's crazy. Um, so a couple of things. Um, I always like just the term, the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. And I, I tend to draw a line in the sand that we're not a charity. We're here for ourselves and for each other. And if along the way we can do good, we should, because we're decent people, right? But if we were here to just do good, well, the esoteric and everything else, why would we go through that, right? I mean, we can throw a fish fry benefit. I think, probably between just the seven of us here, we've got enough propane burners and pots to cook 50 or 60 pounds of fish pretty fast. So
Yeah.
I like to, I like to mix that up. Um, and the other thing is watching, because now I'm watching some of these YouTube comments and the group that's on the Zoom here. How many of you guys have sat in a lodge where you've watched somebody take their obligation on something other than the King James Bible? Um, because not that it's necessarily different, but it was a moving experience for me to watch the first candidate. I was at a deal one night recently, and we did two fellowcraft degrees, and the first candidate obligated on the King James version, and the second candidate obligated on the Quran. And I know that there's probably people that are listening to this. There's people that'll watch this in the future that'll completely, not understand that, and that's fine. But I think it drives home that it's just, as Byron so aptly pointed out, it's just your belief in a supreme being. But it's that acceptance in that room when those doors are closed, and the trust that we have in each other is why it's not for everybody. And to touch on Saturday, which was an incredibly, for me, highlight, like, for sure Masonic highlight, top five for sure ever. Somehow we ended up being at the front of the line right behind Hunter Chapeau with the bagpipe. So that was really cool. But as was discussed, is the changes in the ritual between now and back then, and the way it's done. We don't spend a lot of time, you know, we don't spend enough time learning what the work is supposed to mean. Some lodges do. Some lodges you can't progress until you write a paper and present it. Some lodges there's a time component. There's lodges can kind of do their own thing in that sense. But a lot of lodges, once you're proficient, you sit, and if the vote is affirmative, then on you go, and that's fine. And then we don't look back, right? We show up for green beans. We affiliate with six other lodges. We move through the chairs, and I was thinking about it on the way home yesterday because I didn't spend the night. Um, but I was thinking about it as we were driving back yesterday that you think about all these lodges that are just existing. In other words, that they meet once a month, they open, they pay the light bill, they enjoy a meal together, and then they go home, and that is supposed to satisfy you. Just think of those as blank palettes, right? Think about an artist's palette, and if each one of those lodges is an artist's palette, what a missed opportunity, right? And so it's not for a lack of palettes. I think it's more of a lack of, we've just we've exhausted the quote unquote social portion of the fraternity, and it's time to turn back to our roots, which is the esoteric. Um, Dennis, you'll appreciate this because you know Dominic as well as you do. We're already neck deep into figuring out how to pull some of that old teaching, back into the room, And even as I teach candidates, and I'm not the best teacher. I don't hold any certificate, any of that, but I can get you through your degree work. Um, I even make sure that we stop along the way and like, hey, have you ever thought of, here's the words, but here's how we should think about it, you know? Um, and I was helping a guy the other night, and he's studying his EA, and we were going through things, and I said, have you ever thought about this like that? And he said, no, I haven't. I said, well, you should. And he said, well, how do you come up with that stuff? Well, you come up with that stuff because you're driving down the road and you're going through it. You're laying in bed, you can't sleep. You're on a call like this, and where we can, I mean, obviously in front of with the public, we can't share too much, but you know, I appreciate that. So,
Yep.
yes, we will always do good in our communities because we are good people, or should be, right? Unfortunately, we're not always good people, but we should do good things in our community because we're good people. That's not why I'm here.
Right. Exactly. I like that. I like what you're saying there. One of the things that was mentioned on here by Amanda again, um, she mentioned that she believes that all Bibles are fake. Well, I think that you can call them fake if you want to, but the reality is that all the different books of faith, they all have a hero's journey to them, and they're all allegory that are designed to teach lessons. All those, every book was written by man, obviously. That's obvious. Now, where that stuff came from was way back in antiquity. It used to be passed down from generation to generation by mouth to ear, right? It was done by words, and sometimes, take the Egyptians for example. They used a lot of symbols, and they wrote it all on their pyramids and all their different architecture. You have the symbolism. um, but before that, before they had those symbols for the words, um, it was all passed down from generation to generation, from by mouth to ear. So any book of faith is basically the generation where writing became a thing, and it was no longer picture drawings but became words to interpret um, symbolism. And so in a so every book, you're right that every book is written by man, so it's not necessarily um, God speaking in everything, although it is, you know divinely inspired. And there are certain truths in life as you go along, especially as you get old like me. There are certain truths in life that become very apparent as you get older, and they're just undeniable. And I can tell you that I've seen the same truths in the Quran and the Bible, and even, studying Buddhism, there's and Hermeticism, and even looking back at the lessons through alchemy. There's certain truths that ring true in all these different um, methods of interpretation to help us learn, um, and to help us to get closer to God, to help us to become better in spirit, and more prepared for what's going to come. Really, all of this is just to prepare us for death. In reality, it's and if
Well,
we
that
help
Dennis,
if we help some people along the way, that's great.
that's what I was going to say. Amanda made a profound statement. And the soul does not die. Energy can't disappear. It can only be sent somewhere else. And so, really, everything that we're doing in this tabernacle of clay is to prepare us for that next journey that from whose born no traveler returns.
Yes, absolutely. And I've said it a million times. In fact, when I saw you up there at the symposium, I said it then as well. I truly believe that our soul is devised of our intellect combined with the spark of God that's within us. You know, that thing, that electricity that's running in our system, in our body, that makes our heart beat and our mind function. You know, that spark of life. I believe that those two things combined is what creates our soul, and we're just trying to develop our soul the best that we can, so that we're the most prepared for that moment when we do find out, you know, uh, where we came from and where we're going. Because I think that's the point. That point of no return is when we're going to really find out.
I'd like to
So
bring something up real quick if I could.
Yeah.
Um, did it, okay, it didn't look like I interrupted anybody. True Alpha King in the YouTube chat says, "Can y'all please make something clear? An atheist cannot become a Mason. Become some get that notion, and it's not so." So I'd like to address that, and I'm reasonably sure I'm at least a non-Christian in this group. Okay, so I'm going to preface my remarks with that. Um, Part of becoming a Mason is you have to swear an oath. There, that's not one of our secrets. And how are you going to swear an oath if you don't believe in something greater than yourself? And that belief that there is nothing greater than yourself is the true definition of atheism. So, no, no atheist can become a Mason, period. Full stop. If you don't believe in something greater than you can't be a Mason. You may be a wonderful person. You may be as altruistic as Mother Teresa, but you're not going to be a Mason.
Yep. That's true. That's true. Yeah. It's
Okay,
Go ahead, Jeff.
so yesterday, as we were leaving San Antonio, we were talking about where to go have lunch, and one of the guys riding with us wanted to go to the Little Red Barn Steakhouse.
Yeah, I've been there many
And
times.
yeah, I'd been there a while. It wasn't as good as it used to be.
Ah,
But
disappointing.
that's all right. But there was a guy from Seguin, not Jason. There was a guy from Seguin that called me and asked where we were going, so he came and met us anyway. So the five of us were sitting there. We had a fine lunch,
Talking about
and
Robert.
yeah, and our uh, so we're all sitting there, and we're all still wearing our ties. None of us had our coats on, and our waitress walks up. She's an older lady, and and she asked Robert. She goes, "Oh my gosh, where you guys are all dressed so nice for a Saturday. Where y'all coming from?" And of course, then we're Freemasons, and we did the remembrance at the Alamo, and we're all going home, so we just went to have lunch. And she goes, "You know what? My dad was a Mason, and my mom was in the Eastern Star." And then so as she would serve the remainder of the meal, she would share memories of her parents and whatnot. And somebody at the table said, "Well, did you ever join Eastern Star?" And she said, "No." And then of course the next question was why, and she said, "Because every time I asked my mom about it, she told me it was secret and I didn't need to worry about it." And then you strike at the heart, about why Masonry is doing this, because our grandparents and our grandparents and parents in some cases felt like that you didn't share it. You didn't have to. You had 250,000 Masons in Texas. You weren't hurting, right? So it's really a shame that, in as much as we have a standard and we should keep it, and it should be quality over quantity, but there's so many people that just don't know about it, right? I have a very close friend of mine. I didn't know his dad was a Mason until recently, and he explained that every time he talked to his dad about it, his dad would say, "Don't worry about it. It's whatever." it should have been a more open conversation. And if it was something that he chose to pursue, then he could have. So I think it's good that we're getting, I'm kind of watching the bubbles go by here on the YouTube channel. I think it's good that we're getting some good interaction because it's a beautiful organization. And if you fit in that box, as Byron says, if you fit in that box, then maybe it's a fit for you.
Right. Yeah, it's I'm glad you brought that up because that happened in my family line. So some of you know this, but not everybody, that my great grandfather came across Red River with Sam Houston and ended up um, helping establish Denton County as the county clerk, and also traveled down to get the charter from Sam Houston to open the first lodge in Denton. And they had the first lodge meetings in his office, and then they built their buildings and whatnot. But so where I could have a seven generation legacy, I don't, because my father was a Vietnam vet, and that era of man in general, many of them were against establishment. It's one of the things that was stated, um, that's been stated recently, and it's been stated many times on this show because I firmly believe it, that that generation was fighting the establishment, and of course Freemasonry was the establishment because all the shakers and movers of the United States were Masons, or the majority of them were Masons, especially in Texas. Dang near every city that has been established in Texas was established by Masons. And if it wasn't, then they came shortly after. But it skipped that generation of my dad just because of that simple fact that it was the establishment, and he thought that he was smarter than the establishment, and that he didn't want to have any part of it. And so we skipped that generation.
So I live down in Southeast Texas, and we're real close to past Grand Master Tommy F. Chapman's Mother Lodge there in Nederland.
I
And I don't
love
know,
Tommy F. Chapman.
he's a great guy, a great guy. He's that's my boy goes to the Demolay chapter there,
Oh,
where he
that's a
was.
good
I think
chapter there.
Jeff just came and visited us not too long ago with Mason. It
Nice.
was a good time, good time. But
Actually in that capacity, I'm just a chauffeur. So it was the state master counselor who came to visit.
that's right, that's right.
I just drive the car and buy the Waterburger, man.
There you go.
And peddle the coins.
And there are way worse jobs to have.
That is
But
true.
one of the things that I don't know how far and wide these kind of reached out, but he's got these little business cards. Um, and the business card side, it's a aluminum piece, and on one side of it, it has the quote from Preston. It says, "Masonry is a system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated with symbols." Right? Everybody's heard that a dozen or more times.
Yep.
But on the other side, it's got a quote from uh, Right Worshipful Past Grand Master Chapman, and it says, "We are a society of friends and brothers, banded together for mutual improvement, to help each other in our journey through life, and to make the world a better place to live." And I think,
That's his elevator
at the end of the
speech.
day, it is. Yep. And we everybody was kind of talking about, how do we pitch that elevator speech? How do we have that? Make sure everybody has one. And somebody made these cards, and I don't know if he made them or had them commissioned, but there were several brothers that I know in the area that have one, and I just stepped out, and I carry it in the truck. That way, if anybody asks, because I've had people I know and work with, and I give them my little speech, but I'll be honest, mine's nowhere near as eloquent as that. So I keep this in the truck with me there. And when we're moving around at work, if anybody asks, I just say, hey, this is what I do, because I'm always either in a ball cap or in a polo that's got the square and compass on it. Maybe not always, but fairly often. I enjoy talking to people about it, and I think it's just one of those things that we need to let that pendulum swing back the other way, with the previous generation keeping it secret. I mean, obviously there are things we don't talk about, but I think telling everybody what the fraternity is, why we do what we do, and maybe what we can get out of it is key, right? And spreading that far and wide. Not saying that everybody is a candidate to come in, and I'm by no means handing petitions to everybody that asks, but if you can spread the word, just let them know,
Yeah,
and that's what it comes down to.
I think that you're right, and I don't know that it's even necessarily needing to spread the word so much, but when you recognize that person that is the right fit for Freemasonry, then ask them if they want to have dinner or something, and help introduce them.
Yeah, I I don't I don't do it all the time, but come to a meeting. Just come have dinner with us. We'll take you upstairs, show you around, dispel all the rumors that we can. Um, but then come back next month. And if you drive up and you see a car out front or a couple of cars out front and you want to stop, stop. Unless it's the Meals on Wheels folks, because we do have Meals on Wheels Monday through Friday, which they can't help it. They can't help with masonry. Um, but I I also feel like we should carry our outward appearance, right? And we all stumble from time to time, and that's okay. But I think it's important that we should be the best version of ourselves as often as possible for ourselves and those around us. But then also to attract those like-minded individuals who might be interested in learning and growing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Byron.
So after that service I was at today, I had a conversation with a gentleman who expressed an interest. And maybe this is a time to put it out there for those of our viewers who may have an interest. What's the next step? I mean, they're watching videos on the YouTube or the Face Crack or whatever, and maybe getting a little fired up about, hey, this is something I want to do. This is something I'm thinking about. Might be a good fit for me. So, what are their next steps?
Find a local lodge. I can tell
How
you.
how do you do that?
Well, you can either contact Grand Lodge or look online, look on Facebook. There is a presence.
don't don't wait for somebody to ask you because that's your first red flag.
Right.
I'd add to be very careful just checking on Facebook, because there's so many,
Oh,
especially
that's true.
in the United States, so many that pose to be a Masonic lodge that are not. If for anybody that across the United States, and yet every jurisdiction's got its own thing. So I'd only want to speak for my tiny little corner of the state of Texas. But how I started, I knew some folks, um, and we had discussed it. But when I moved to Southeast Texas, my schedule freed up. I had a new job, and I said, I'm interested in this. And I went to the Grand Lodge website and used the lodge locator. Most legitimate Grand Lodge websites are going to have a lodge locator that you'll be able to find, and find a legitimate Masonic lodge near you, and it'll tell you when and where they meet. And it, sometimes it's got a phone number and email. You can try reaching out, but just like Brother Robert Parks has said in some of those speeches when he's talking about um, the methods of communication, and we're not answering the call. Um, my calls went unanswered, so I went through and eventually just knocked on the front door, and the guys were having dinner, and they said, "Well, come on in." And I got to know those guys, and then over a period of 3 or 4 months, I asked for a petition, and here we are. That's the process. But I think it starts with looking for that legitimate Grand Lodge website and the legitimate lodge near you, because even in the tiny little town that I live in, I'd say we probably got a population 12,000 in my town, and the next town over maybe
Oh,
has
that's
about
tiny little, huh?
14. Well, I mean,
We
Hey,
have
let me. Hey,
we have
Eric, let me.
1,800 in our town.
yeah.
Oh, you big metropolitan guys just need to be quiet.
That's right. That's right. And then, the next town over has probably about 15,000 people in it, and they have uh, two legitimate, or sorry, two illegitimate, um, unrecognized or clandestine lodges in that little area over there, and we're not even close to a big metropolitan area like Houston or anything. I'm an hour east of Houston.
Well, one of the benefits of this broadcast, this show, has always been to try to help people get connected. So that one thing that you can do is, if you message me now, if you're in Africa, I'm not going to be able to help you uh, find a lodge. But if I can tell you where the lodges are, but you still have to make the effort. I'm not going to recommend you to a lodge. But if you reach out to me online, um, through Facebook Messenger with a legitimate request, and I can help you find where some lodges are. And I can tell you that in every state there's a Grand Lodge for that's either AF and AM or F and AM, and those are acronyms for Ancient, Free, and Accepted Masons, or Free and Accepted Masons. And those two are recognized by the Grand Lodge of England. Um, and we have this recognition system to where all the legitimate Grand Lodges are recognized around the world. But the original Grand Lodge was the Grand Lodge of England, and all of those Grand Lodges in each state that have those acronyms, either AF and AM or F and AM, those Grand Lodges are legitimate. So, like here in Texas, if there's somebody that contacts our Grand Lodge to anywhere down here in South Texas, they send them over to me, and then I help them find the lodge that's closest to them. And because I'm non-biased like that, I don't play favorites. I will try to get you in touch with the best place where you're going to have success in becoming a Mason, if that's what you're looking for. But that's also what we do with Masonic Improvement. Now, our Facebook, I mean, you've probably seen it already. It's got the red Ouroboros with the yod in the middle of the square and compass. That's my Facebook page, Masonic Improvement, Building a Better Brotherhood. If you'll message that account, then I'll try to help you in that regard as well. But like I said, I'm only going to be able to tell you uh, what you're going to be looking for. Like in some of the other countries, it'll either be the Grand Lodge of England that's represented in that country, or it'll be the Grand Lodge of Scotland that's represented in that country. Like Africa, there's several places where it'll be the Grand Lodge of England that supports a city, or it'll be the Grand Lodge of Scotland that supports a city. And so I can shoot you in that direction if you're anywhere close to those places. If you're not close to them, I'll let you know that it's just not in the cards for you, because this is not something that you can do online. It's not something that you can do long distance. It's you're it's an you're developing an interpersonal relationship with your brothers, and that's not something that can be done online. So if you want to reach out, we've helped several people get get connected with different lodges, and in fact, we've had several of our inner circle members that have gone uh, from man to Mason. You know, they've gone from Mister to Mason through their journey right here on Masonic Improvement, which is pretty cool. Anybody else got anything?
No, I think we've pretty much gotten that one nailed down fairly well.
I think so too. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say I am kind of digging this uh, format tonight of you know being actively engaged with the YouTube audience. Uh, that's I feel like giving us a maybe a little bit more reach, and that's a good thing.
Right. Amanda Claire, I understand you say you don't need a group or title to decide me. That's awesome. That's I'm glad that you're you're happy with your journey. And you know, Freemasonry isn't necessarily, you know, to if if people are joining Freemasonry in search of titles and things like that, then really um, they're joining for the wrong reasons. And if they stay active in the fraternity for titles, then they're really staying active for the wrong reasons. You know, the titles that we have throughout our journey are really earned, not really. It's, I don't know. It's hard to explain. We have a certain amount of business that we have to handle, so we do have titles in that regard in an officer line, um, but that's basically to maintain the business. If the if a person's goal is to travel through that officer lineup as quickly as they can so that they can receive all the feathers in their hat, then they've really joined for the wrong reasons. So I get it. I get it.
I'm
I
getting
don't
a
think
feathered hat.
do what?
I'm getting a feathered hat.
You're getting a feathered hat.
I'm gonna get a feathered hat and start wearing it on this
So you have
when I
all the
dial
feathers.
in.
Nice. But
Oh, I'm
yeah,
gonna get a
that's
bunch of feathers, whole bunch of multicolored feathers too, just cause.
I mean, I know this is gonna sound super cliche and everybody's gonna roll their eyes, but the only title that matters to me is brother
there you go.
and collectively brethren. I you know
Yeah, that's important because we are social people and we need each other to to get through this thing called life, and having people we can count on to help us along the way is special. It really is. What else you guys got?
Somebody just commented on the YouTube that it's their favorite podcast. This is probably your best time for a shameless plug right now.
Yeah, if Daniel was on here, he would definitely be pushing me too. Yeah, so these guys, all of these members here that are on right now, these are all our inner circle members, and they are contributors to the show in a monetary fashion. They help me pay the bills as far as paying for the upgraded version of Zoom, the different editing software, the you know everything that goes along with doing a show. They they're contributing to that, And that's why I have them on the show with me to talk about all these things, because what they say is important to me. But really, as you see, I care about what everybody says, but I usually can't keep up with all the all the chats that are going on. I'm usually better to just focus on a topic that we all discuss. But that's the beauty of being an inner circle member, is you get the opportunity to be on the show and talk about these things. And being that this is a public broadcast, it's open to, you know, the general public as well. So it's not just Masons, even though that's typically all that sign up. But I have blocked people as well before, though, too, because they came on and got too crazy on me. Too many conspiracies. But if you like this show, you too can contribute to Masonic Improvement. But we have different things that we do every year. Like each year at Grand Lodge, we have a Masonic Improvement dinner that is upscale dinner to celebrate all the brothers who are passionate about the journey and passionate about uh, having the intelligent conversations that we need to have as men and Masons to be successful in this life that we, as we go. So there's different things that this pays for. And then it also, we have a book club that we do right now. It's Esoterica, which next week we probably will not have the live, because we have chapter 3 in Esoterica to go through and talk about Esoterica by Albert Pike. And that is just basically a book about the esotericism of Freemasonry that I really like. But that's going to happen next week as well. We have all kinds of cool stuff that we do. But this, I enjoy this the most, having these discussions every week. This is my reset before the week. It kind of gets me started. This fills my cup talking with you, brothers.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that just real quick. It really is. It's not just a reset, it's a recharge. You know, um, I've been isolated from Masonry for a while outside of this program. And getting on here every week and being able to interact with you guys reminds me of what it is, what I want to be, how I want to be every single week, and I'm, I just got to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
I agree. And I feel the same way. And in fact, when I first joined the show years ago with Justin, um, that it was just, we had one show, and if you listeners out there want to go back and watch it, it's called the Well-Rounded Lodge. And that was the episode that Justin interviewed me before I became part of Masonic Improvement. And that was a great episode. And also, we do have a video published that is what is Freemasonry, and we have one that's published that is how to become a Freemason. So you can search in our video collection and find those videos if you want more information on becoming a Freemason, or if you want more information about what Freemasonry is. And like I said, there's co-masonry, and there's also female only Masonic lodges, and they're not as prevalent. It was always a fraternity of men. It as Jeff said, it is a brotherhood. And there's a reason, because of, the in the very first degree, the stuff that we go to, it's definitely a brotherhood. Um, but that's not to say that ladies don't have just as much depth and understanding as men. I mean, it's to think that would be just crazy talk. So
Wrong. I think that's the word you were looking for. Wrong.
yeah, yeah. Even though I like what we have, because I think that men together are able to support each other better, because we know what we go through in life. We know the thoughts and the feelings that we have going through life, and so we can support each other better. Just like I believe that women can support themselves, better as collectively. I think that, there's a reason um, why women, get together and talk so much, because it's hard living with us, and they need each other to learn how to put up with us in life. Those are facts.
Well, and I'd like to expand a little bit on your remarks about co-masonry and female masonry. While our Grand Lodge doesn't recognize either of those particular institutions, it doesn't mean that they are without value.
Right.
And I'm going to say that again.
I
It
agree.
does not mean that they are without value. They're absolutely valuable to the people who subscribe to them, to the people who find joy, who find worth, and who find improvement through them. It's just not a brand, I guess, of masonry that our particular Grand Lodge will recognize. Doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's evil, doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's different. And if you're
Right.
willing to accept different, then maybe it's for you.
Well, Amanda said that they would want to be with the men and the women, and there is in Colorado there is a co-masonry. There is a lodge that's recognized in Colorado that is co-masonry, and it's and I know people that have, one of our inner circle members has actually been there and checked it out, and went and saw everything that they're offering, and it's pretty awesome. And he came back and told me about it, and I thought it was is pretty awesome. In fact, I think I want to do a show with them one of these days. I need to get a hold of them and do an interview with them, because I think that's cool. I personally like what I have, but um, man, if that's your cup of tea, then I say go for it. Whatever's going to help you to develop the internal, um, so that you can better affect the external, I'm all for it.
I agree with you for the most part, Dennis, but I think there's also something to be said about um, being amongst individuals that are the same. I guess we would say gender would be the right word.
Yes,
um, Amongst individuals that are the same gender as you, sometimes you may be able to tend to speak a little more freely, a little more openly.
absolutely.
Whereas if we're in mixed company, some of the things that I can discuss amongst the brothers, I can't have as frank a discussion amongst other people. Um, and part of that is that they're brothers, and that we're we've obligated to each other. But I think the other part is that just men talking amongst men can have that more open effect, and and I'm sure ladies talking amongst ladies has the same thing. Um, and that's just one point of maybe a reason why. But I think that's kind of how, not to be exclusionary, but exclusive is
There you go.
the
That's
the
the
key
word.
term there, right? Yeah.
Yes. And I agree. I agree. That's why I like, our form of Freemasonry here. I think that brothers are able to relate to me a little bit better, and I go through things that are unique to a man that, I want to talk to another man about, and get help get help with. Um there was something else I wanted to talk about, and that is, there, that's right. So we got on this big kick about defining what Freemasonry is, and all that. I'd like to take it back to, let's go back to the the setup of the lodge, and how, um, and the different positions of officers and stuff, and discuss, because we're coming up on that season of election season. It's coming close. It's coming quick. And I was talking to a brother that's supposed to go into the East next year, and one of the things that he was concerned with was the all the pressure that people are putting on him over, things that he finds trivial. It it's it's a bunch of bickering over, you know how to, manage the business portion of the lodge. And he is more like I am, to where, I can do, um, a lot of the work in the degrees, but I really don't like to, because I like to watch the degrees, and I like to reflect on the lessons, and focus on that. I mean, you all know that I travel and give presentations all over, and so of course that's my deal, is I like to focus on that. And he's a little bit unsure of going to the East, because he's concerned that, um, he likes that more of the esoteric value that Freemasonry has to offer. And there's one of the lodges that they're so inundated with busy work that they don't get a whole lot of the esoteric work done. And what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Sorry, you
I
cut
was
out a little bit, Dennis. Could you say that one more time, please?
There's a brother that's if tradition prevails, he'll go to the East next year, and he's concerned because there's been so much emphasis on the business part and the busy work that's created around the lodge, that he's not finding the esoteric value that he really likes. And he's concerned about, um, he's concerned about going into the East, because he's worried that he's not going to be able to get the things done that he wants to get done. How do y'all feel about that?
Well, so we're in the process of rebuilding, and I say the we because it's been a number of years, and so I've just told the guys, um, I've as we I've tried to have agenda meetings the week before every meeting, so that we know what we're going to cover, and that helps push the meeting along. But with some structural things, right? We have to have a process, so we've got to have a motion and a second. It's got to be captured in the minutes and all that. And there'll be times, there's been a couple of meetings where I've apologized before we wrap up. Listen, tonight wasn't the most fun meeting because we had a bunch of stuff we needed to fix. We had a bunch of stuff that needed to work on, We all agreed it needed to be done, but now because we've pushed through so much of that stuff, now we're able to have somebody come and speak at a meeting. And so what I've tried to do is, sometimes it's somebody within the lodge. Sometimes we had the Fayette County EMS director in a few weeks ago. We're having Tuesday night. We're having the woman that is the CEO of the foundation that's holding our 501c3 going to come in and speak before dinner. I know, Dennis, you're trying to come down in May. So, I would encourage him to figure out what business has to get done and then just put in, and I hate to use the term entertainment, but what is the extra program, right? And just start doing it, right? I mean, I don't want to seem tyrannical, but at some point he is the master, and if it's important to him, as Josh touched on, you can do what you want, but you might end up there by yourself. So I think it's all about striking the balance. We got to do the business because we need the building, but once the building is there, we need to stretch our legs a little bit and challenge ourselves with thinking.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. If we're not challenging ourselves, intellectually, then how are we, walking away better than when we got there? And that's how I gauge most things that I attend. Am I going to walk away feeling smarter or feeling like I gained something more than when I got there? Will I feel like a better human being when I walk away? That's very important to me as I get older. When I was younger, it wasn't so important. It was, here, hold my beer, watch this. But now it's more in the lines of, what can I gain out of this so that, the next 40 years will be a little bit less hectic than the last 50 years.
I would want to piggyback on what Jeff was saying, and I would recommend to that brother that you were talking about, Dennis, that there's no reason to wait until June, July. There's no reason to wait. If he wants education, be the change you want to see. Um, I would, just talk with the current worshipful master and say, hey, I want to present a short talk. I want to hear something, or invite a brother that could present a short talk if you want to go, and start with those business meetings. But then, think about what some of the quarterly lodges do as far as business. Business is conducted and they only meet 4 to 5 times a year.
Yeah, and it's
I
usually
visit
only about
Gunsight
15,
Lodge.
20 minutes too.
Yep. I I've visited Gunsight Lodge several times. They are a quarterly lodge. And their business is pretty quick, and then they'll talk. I've been there on a district deputy presentation. I've been there on a couple of things that extends the meeting out a little bit, but then afterwards we're having a big festive board. And we listened to, and this is probably my favorite episode of Masonic Improvement, the one where you and Justin interviewed Brother Pete Norman about St. Albans and their process. The work can be done by a committee. Let the committee present their findings, their recommendation. um, and that's the magic. Is there's no committee of the whole. You work presented by a committee, then you move into um, consideration and action, and then once the action's done, the gavel drops and we move on to the next item. And if the next item's education, awesome. Save some more time for that.
Right. So out of this group right here, how many of you meet just one time a month? The rest of y'all meet
Formally,
twice a month? Wow.
formally, yes, but there's 6 days a week. There's somebody at the lodge.
Right, right. So yes, that's what I mean is for, formally. Um,
We have 2 stateds a month. There was talk this year about possibly going to one, not necessarily going to one stated a month, but having one of the stated meetings called dark and having a fraternal social event at a restaurant, at a bowling alley, at a whatever. Because I mean, we don't have to. It's at the discretion of the worshipful master if we want to go dark. I know, again, my lodge is south of I-10. So when when it snowed down here, we went dark. We're not putting people out on the highway for that.
Not
It's,
in South
there's just
Texas. They
no,
don't know how to do it.
that's right. Well, not only that, our community doesn't have the infrastructure to salt and brine every single road,
Right.
so it's too dangerous. And we've done the same thing with major rainstorms and tropical storms and all that, right? I mean, going dark's not that big a deal
Right.
for a meeting, right? We're still meeting. I'm not saying, that but going dark for a meeting, especially when we're having 24 of them a year, um, just the stated, right? That we'll have a called meeting for installation, we'll have a called meeting for a degree. So, I mean, there's a high likelihood that we're meeting 35, 40 times a year if we're doing a lot of degree work.
Wow. Well, we at two of the lodges that I belong to, we meet twice a month, and I think that it's very reasonable to think that you should be able to get all your business done that first meeting, and then the second meeting have an educational meeting. Do have one that's all business. Don't even worry about education, and then the next one just make it an esoteric, a night of esotericism or something. Um, I think that if we're meeting that often, then we should definitely be able to do that. We usually do our degrees on the second meeting. If we have a degree or whatever, then we'll do that on the second meeting of the month because we do have two of them built in. But I kind of had the same thought with him, is that, really it's possible to get a lot done in just a short amount of time in a business meeting, and still be able to have some education. I'm curious to know what Arlington does in that regard, because you guys, y'all are got a heavy membership, and you've got a lot of business that takes place. Um, Tell us how y'all do it.
So we have one business meeting a month plus degrees all the freaking time, which is a good thing.
I was gonna say,
So,
you say freaking time, all freaking time. It doesn't sound very positive, but that can be a good thing.
well, depending upon your point of view, it hasn't been as bad lately. But when I joined, there was this degree mill gripe. You know, I mean, all you do is you do business meeting degrees all the time, um, and so you don't have time for anything else, right? And you miss out. Now we've had more time lately, so we can do, we might just have one or two a month. So, that leaves plenty of time for all the other stuff. Well, what Arlington tends to do is we have a lot of stuff going on. So our business meetings are long. I know people gripe about long business meetings, but the truth is they're moving. I mean, it's topic to topic to topic. We're not dwelling on anything. We got a lot of stuff to cover and a lot of stuff to go over, and a lot of stuff to organize. Now, that being said, Aleem's done a great job this year. Our junior warden of education at every meeting, having something more than I've been challenging the guys with various thoughts on how to do education during the meetings, and he's done a good job of it this year. Uh, what I absolutely cannot handle is reading a paragraph out of the law book. That is not education. Not to
I
me
agree.
anyway.
I agree wholeheartedly.
But no, we have a speaker. He just gives a little something there. Um, that's usually pretty good, because if you just do 15, 20 minutes, um, it focuses. And then we'll do another special called meeting to go over beyond the Q&A, EA, and fellow craft and masters. Go much deeper on each of the symbols and all the things. Those will be a separate called meeting for that.
Nice. Yeah, I was curious because I do know that you guys are so busy up there, and you're fortunate that you have a lot of men that are great leaders, and so you have a lot of people a lot of resources there to help you get things done. That's you are blessed with a lot of good masons in your
We
lodge.
are. We have a very strong past masters group, which they're all helping and supporting all the time, and there's a bunch of them.
You know,
In fact, if you didn't have the past masters, that would be a goodly portion of our audience.
yes, and that's I was just fixing to say that it's funny that you mentioned that because the most successful lodges that I've seen have the best support in past masters, helping the brothers get stuff done that they need done.
They do. We're blessed in that past masters don't have to go through the line again. We got plenty of people to fill the chairs. In fact, it's competitive to get to get in at the bottom of the line. So the past masters are guiding and supporting and planting what they want in each of the guys' ears as they go.
Yes.
which is great.
Yes.
Like, hey, I think you should do this. They get a lot of advice, but that's great.
Right.
It rolls along pretty good.
Well, and I'd like to jump in here real quick. The gentleman who's looking to be into the East next, or come June, and Jacob mentioned this. You don't want to be tyrannical, but you're the one in the East. You get to set the agenda for the lodge for the year. And if you're, again, I heard this phrase, I believe it was from Jacob again, be the change you want to see.
Mhm.
Get in there and do the things. Don't let the don't let the fear of mm, riling feathers rule what you do. Let it certainly have an impact on what you want to do, but don't let them negate anything that you're after as far as improvement for the lodge goes. Speaking for my time in the East, my thing was trying to get the lodge involved in the community, and we did that in a few different ways. We took part in the local, the annual goat cook-off festival, but we didn't do it by fielding a team for the goat cook-off. We went out and just wore our shirts and hats and participated in a washer pitch, just to get out there and say, hey, we're still around. Yeah, this is Brady Lodge right here in Brady, Texas. We tried to institute a blessing box. Where I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this. I know it's a thing in small towns where the various civic organizations would put together a box on the corner of their property and fill it with non-perishable items that folks could just come and take as they needed. And I don't think that wound up going over terribly well. I know we did it for a few months in supporting other blessing boxes within our community. Just showing up with 50 or $100 worth of groceries and throwing them in a box and going, y'all have at it. But the idea though is for me was to do something on a regular, consistent basis that got our name out into the community, because frankly, we were more or less a non-entity. But now we sponsor Little League football and baseball teams. We've got banners up. All of those things are small potatoes, but that's a start. And the lodge is continuing to expand on those. So I have a real interest in seeing those things continue. And I would hope that your incoming worshipful master, Dennis, will at least look at that aspect of how do I make my lodge relevant to my community again, if
Well,
in fact it is not relevant.
one of the things, well, I'm me personally, I'm not that guy. I think that we've got a lot of things that we do that support the community without having to get out there and do that. But um, one of the things that I told him was just to, focus on what we've been doing, all the staples of the lodge. There's certain things that every lodge does every year. And you need to look at the past calendar, make your calendar identical, and then build upon that with any extra things that you want to do. So, we all know that we have the business of we got to get the 990s in, we got to get the audit forms, the 71 done, we've got to get this and that done. We know we've got to do that. We know that, if you're going to do a scholarship, then you need to do it by this time and then have the scholarships given during this other time, at this other particular meeting. So you know which months all those things take place. So have those things in your calendar. Make sure you have the calendar planned out for the year, and then sprinkle in the different ideas that you want to implement along with those things. And I'm all for the education. I always have been. You guys know
Mhm.
that. But that's Josh is showing his calendar, I guess. Josh is
Yep.
very big on calendars, and he went to OLT. You know, Josh, we pay, or Goliad pays for our officers to go to officer leadership training, and Josh went and he took it to heart, and he did it right. And he planned out his year and got everything done that he wanted to get done. And there were things that were that were new, that were sprinkled in, that got done. And as a past master in Josh's year, I remember that was the first time the backpacks were done for the kids at school. And
Yes.
that that was, I as a past master, I supported having that done, having the lodge take care of that, um, to support that effort for Josh, because I knew that that was just one of the things he wanted to sprinkle in, along with having education at all the meetings and calling people in from all over to have education. And I, as a past master, all I wanted to do was be his cheerleader and help where I could. I'm not at Goliad all the time anymore. I've got too many irons in the fire. I'm up in San Antonio at the Scottish Rite most of the times on that Thursday night. But in the background, I can still support and still um, do what I can to help him in Goliad. But in this other lodge, we do have 2 meetings a month, and I told him, if because he is the master, he can delegate, what happens at each meeting, and he can very easily, because you know we we have a lot of busy work, but it can all be done in the first meeting, and then the second meeting, make that purely esoterical if he wants to. We could even have a floor school and a presentation after the floor school on that second meeting if we wanted to, because you know it's it's not it's not undoable. That's not it's not it's not incapable of being done. That sounded wrong saying undoable. But
I'd
anyways,
even I'd even go back to kind of echo what I said before and build on what Byron said. There's no reason to wait, right? I mean, it's the 1st of March. Right? I know you guys haven't met yet in March, so that means you got that lodge has 2 meetings in March, 2 in April, 2 in May, and then at least one in June before any installation can even thought about happening. and and have that, I'd recommend to that individual to give a little bit now, or ask the worshipful master for a few minutes to give a little bit now, to prime those individuals for maybe doing that next time. Because if you can give a little bit of
Fuck
education
yeah.
now, and it'll grow and build, and then when he's ready, he'll know who wants to aid and participate and be involved, not just um not just hoping that people are going to show up if he automatically cancels business at the second meeting every month. He's going to know that, hey, I've got some supporters here, and that they're ready to help and assist and make it grow and be all that it can be. But also, Byron, I forgot you were from Brady. um, I've got some family up there that live in Eden and Rochelle, and I think some still actually live in Brady. But it's been several years since I've been up there to the Cabrito Festival, and I sure miss it.
You know, that's the big thing for Brady is the goat kickoff. Uh, but uh, the fun bit for me from being in that area, because I actually lived in Concho County. I didn't live in McCullough County. And I never got to interact, or well, I did get to interact in a very limited way with some of the guys from Paint Rock Lodge, but Eden does not have a lodge anymore. Melvin wound up uh, merging with Brady, I want to say in the 60s, along with Lone and Rochelle and a couple of the other smaller outlying communities from that county. So Brady Lodge is the only lodge in McCullough County now. Yeah, it's the only lodge in McCullough County now because the county ends at the San Saba River. But if you get the opportunity to go back, if you want to make the opportunity to go back, get with me, and I will absolutely go back with you because I live in Waco now.
Yeah, for
But
sure, for sure.
Brady
It might
Brady
it
and
might
Camp San Saba is my home.
it might wind up being September around the time of the Cabrito Festival. How about that?
Hey, how about? I like it.
Yeah,
So
I'll get up with you.
so now I have a question for each one of y'all, and let's see who all can give an answer without giving the same answer. And we'll start with Jeff up in the because you're the upper left hand corner of my screen. Um, for the person that's watching this show that is not a Freemason, what would you say to them? Because they're obviously interested in topics that we talk about to some degree. So, what would you say to them watching this show?
If it's something you're interested in, you need to get started. You should get started. You should get started now. If for some reason you can't because you're concerned about the time commitment or something like that, we've already been here a long time and we'll be here tomorrow. But the sooner you start, the quicker you can enjoy it.
That's a good one. I like that. All right,
And
brother
with
Atcher.
that, I'm dropping off. I'm going to the Cornerstone tomorrow. I got to go to bed.
All
Love
right.
y'all.
You have a great one. Take care, Jeff. It's good seeing you. All right. So, brother Atcher, you just jumped into that number one position. So you're next.
Okay. Man, and we can't just copy and say ditto. So, uh, if somebody is watching the show but is not a Freemason, I would urge them to meet the individuals that are Freemasons in their area. Um, Even if it's going to take a while, and I'm not I'm not recommending anybody petition right away, but just meet them, get to know them, Figure out if those are the kind of people that you would want to hang around, and just hang around them. No, don't even worry about becoming a member. But it's obvious that if you're listening to the show and you've listened on to this point, that you do have some level of interest. But I would recommend just meeting them, meeting the people in your area, and 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 seeing, hey, maybe I've got some potential friends here. And at that point, once they become friends, then think about doing
That's
what
it. That's
Brother
it.
Jeff
That's
said.
it. One
Uh,
thing. One thing.
yeah,
Okay.
well, that's what I'm saying. I
Right.
would recommend they start with just meeting the people to be friends. We're a society of friends and brothers. Meet the people and be friends.
That's a good one. I like that. Larry, it's on you now.
Well, I would ask him. Um, appreciate your interest, but what, why do you want to do this? What is your interest in it? What brought this inquiry? And see what they said.
That's a good one.
Okay.
That's the one that I I always ask, and I always ask probing questions for that as well, a little bit further, because I am a big fan of uh, of making sure that there's somebody that I would want to have in my lodge. Alrighty.
Yeah.
So now we got Byron. What do you got?
I was really hoping to be later towards the end because I got to give this some thought because
Oh my
Jacob
gosh.
and Larry have both
Get,
given some really good ones. But give me a second here. So, the conversation I had today with a guy was find the culture within that lodge
okay.
that appeals to you. And if you don't find it at your local lodge, try the surrounding lodges.
There you go. That's a
See
good one.
see what's there.
Yep. There's lots of lodges with lots of cultures.
Yeah.
That's another great one. All right, Zach, it's your turn.
I'm sorry, I'm coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say now you go dark on me. What are you talking
I'm
about?
sorry. I hit the wrong button. I was off on another screen.
I could see you looking at the other screens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true. um, pretty much every Mason, well, I don't know, but one of the most common things you'll hear about Masons is that they wish that they'd joined earlier. So if you got someone who's asking and interested, um, yes, I would try and start screening. But before that, just on them, whatever question that they got that's holding them back, they need to ask it. What is it? They need to give me a call. Give the local lodge, whoever they're talking to, a call. Up. I'll bet you they have a misconception.
That's a good one. That is an excellent one. Ask
Well,
questions.
I don't even know where to even follow with that. I mean, I'm just gonna say ditto. I mean, it took all the good
I told
ideas.
you you can't do that, Josh.
I know.
You can
And
tell
say the
he's from my
question again. Let me
hometown.
think about it.
You can, yeah. Well,
All
you're the
right.
last one now. So the question you
Okay.
gotta, the question is, what would you say to that person that is obviously watching that is interested in Freemasonry, but they're not a Mason? But you can't repeat anything that anybody else has said.
And you can't say anything
Well,
about green beans.
well, yeah. Enjoy the green beans. I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't hear this. Just ask the question. I mean, Zach kind of hit it on it a little bit, but it's like
Oh, you're saying ask the question.
ask the question. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I
I mean,
yeah.
I
It
mean,
ain't, it ain't
the
gonna
long and the
happen if you
short of it
don't.
is exactly. And they there's some like Zach was saying a couple times we tiptoe around a little bit, but at the same time, if you don't ask the question, then it ain't gonna happen.
Nice, nice. Okay, so Brad Hoff he's one of our inner circle members, and he obviously is too pooped to talk and get online tonight, but he decided to talk on in the chat and said exactly what I was interested in saying. So now I got to come up with something different. But Brad says I would let them know of the sacrifice it takes to become a Mason. What the real commitment is. So that's what Zach is saying, is that he would make sure that whoever was approaching the door to help them understand what it takes to be a Mason and be successful in Freemasonry. And I like that. I like that. And he also said you got to slow it down. So so because I didn't want two answers, Brad, I'm going to take that one because that was the one that I was going to start off with earlier. This is a lifelong journey, and there are deadlines on some of the things that you would do. But when you are courting the lodge, take your time, because you will want to take your time and ask those questions. You will want to get to know the culture of the lodge. You will want to make sure that your schedule is going to fit around everything else that goes on within the lodge, so that you can get maximum benefit. So it's okay to take your time in that courting process. In fact, I recommend it. I recommend that you don't just jump in and say, I want to join, and fill out a petition the next business meeting that you attend to have dinner with the guys. Take your time, get to know the brothers, get to know what you're asking to be a part of, but do it. Because I think it's one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done, and I think that each one of these members that are sitting here in the inner circle can say the same thing. It's certainly not the pinnacle of their life, but it is definitely something that makes life more meaningful. Can we all agree on that? So that being said, let's go into closing thoughts, because it is now 10 o'clock. So we'll go back up at the top, Brother Etcher.
Yeah. You know, as always, good discourse, excellent use of our principles of rhetoric. I always love talking with the brothers. It's great, being able to engage with the outside group in our YouTube chat like we did tonight. We just had a awesome discussion tonight, a wide range of topics. It was great. Um, I did have a question. I guess we can wait until after the live, but I did have a question about the book club. Um, so we can talk about that later. But I really appreciate the opportunity to be up here. I thank you, Dennis, and all the members of the inner circle for allowing us to continue to do this. I enjoyed it again tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Larry, what you got, my brother?
Well, every time I start talking, I have to cough. But anyway, one other thing about at the thing in San Antonio, uh, that Grand Master, the gavels, it sounds like is pop 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 pop. It was so funny. It's all I could do from laughing, but I did, but he was obviously on a hurry. And because I think, does he do this all the time? I don't think so. But anyway, yeah. But I'm going in the Grandmasters Conference in April. I think it's in Waco. I live in Moody, Byron. You know where Moody is?
I do know where Moody is, and I look forward to seeing you in Waco.
Okay, but anyway, that's all I have.
Nice. All right, Byron, what's your final thoughts?
Um, it was alluded to in the last bit of our conversation this evening that to become a Mason, you have to ask the question. The question is, how do I become a Mason? At least in my mind. And that's what it really boils down to. If this is something that intrigues you, if this is something that interests you, if this is something that you feel like needs to be a part of your life, that's the question you need to ask.
Okay. Good one. Brother Haston. Now, I'm disappointed that you came in so late, but that's okay. I know you are a very busy man all the time.
My apologies for being quite late. I don't even know what y'all were talking about most of the time, but I think I came in when you were talking about something about a new master. I think, um,
Yes.
and this is the time new masters are getting excited, right? Senior warden is prepping um, and trying to get everything in order and getting all of his ideas straight for his coming year. Uh, every lodge has brethren that want something, right? Arlington Lodge, our problem is that we're so busy with all this other stuff. We've got brethren who haven't heard or participated in a good esoteric thing in a while. It's because we haven't had time to do them, right? Give it to them. If your lodge has that covered, but you're not doing something else, give that to them. You've got to know your lodge. You got to know what the brethren want. But every lodge has needs. Not and no two lodges are the same. I'll tell you that. That's the first thought. Second thought, I probably shouldn't say it until I can prove it, but I think I'll be able to prove it. On the slow it down thought, at least a couple I know for sure of lodges that slow down the process before they become an EA. That stage, if you slow that down, their retention is higher after they become Master Masons. You set the environment, you set the expectations, they know what they're getting into. That gets rid of those that join real quick, thinking it's one thing, and then they get another. You slow it down for your lodge, your retention goes up. More to come on that later, but I think I'll be able to prove it.
I agree. I agree. And I'm looking forward to that chart.
It'll
I
come.
know it's
It'll come.
coming. So I'm looking forward to it. So all of you guys, y'all know that that's what's coming. All right.
But that's not today's article, which is
Exactly
something else.
right. But that is an excellent question to pose. Is if that can be backed up with the data, and I look forward to
Well,
that. I think it
I
can
know
be.
for sure that a couple of lodges I can back it up, but I
Yeah.
need to get, you know me, I don't take little stories here and there. I need all the data. So I'll
Yes,
work on
for sure. Nice. I like that. I like that. Josh.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Good discussion. Glad to be with everybody on the podcast. Everybody that was in San Antonio, we had a great time, and I look forward to next year.
All right. That was short and sweet. Um. So that leaves me. So number one, I want to say I'm glad that we've had as much as we've had all the conversations that we've had tonight on in the chat. That was awesome. You know, it was really good trying to keep up with that and keep that conversation relevant to what was being discussed in the chat. Um, I'm glad that Brad was able to jump on a little later, and thank you for that plug on the sacrifice of ego. That's what my last presentation was about in at the symposium. And if any of you inner circle members want to read that presentation, just let me know and I'll email it to you. I need to get some of y'all's emails. I don't have everybody's emails. I realize that. So any inner circle member that's watching this or listening to this, do me a favor and message me and give me your email address. Tell me what your handle is on YouTube so I can match it up with your inner circle membership, and then that way I can put it in a spreadsheet so I have all the emails for everyone, because YouTube doesn't give us that information for all the inner circle members. So I have to get that from you guys. I think what I would like to say is that, once again, this is my happy place. Every Sunday, this is my favorite place to be with you brothers. And I love it that we can talk about so many different things. I love it that our conversation will just go all the way over here and then all the way over here and then land right here by the time it's all said and done. I love it. I love those kind of conversations. That way, I know that when we have those kind of conversations, we're benefiting those people that are watching the show. And just as much as we've touched on the non-Mason, the Mr. to Mason, or in some cases the Mrs. to Mason, because we had some females on here tonight that may be interested in ladies Freemasonry, in different parts of the country or overseas. That's a thing. So if y'all are interested in that, go for it. I'm not gonna say that you shouldn't, but we've had a lot of conversation on the Mr. to Mason tonight, but I'd also like to touch on the brothers that feel like they're on an island out there. That was one of the main reasons that I got on the internet to begin with, and brought my Freemasonry to the internet, was because at the time I felt like I was all alone on an island in my area, because I was having a bunch of different thoughts that weren't the same as the culture from of the local lodges, like we discussed in this show. And it felt like a vacuum in a way, because the whole district has so many different plural members that it seemed like everybody, that every lodge was exactly the same no matter where I went. So I ended up having to go 2 hours away from my home to get the Freemasonry I was looking for. And I did, and I still do. I still travel that every month, 4 or 5 times a month, to different directions, some down to Corpus and some up to San Antonio. On Wednesday, I'll be in Houston. Because I just enjoy, visiting with brethren from all over. Now I've got the bug. I'm a traveling man. But I originally got onto Masonic Improvement with Justin because I felt like I was on an island, and that's where I was getting my Freemasonry. But if that's how you feel, I want you to know that we certainly appreciate you being on the show, or listening to the show, or watching the show, whichever you're doing, participating on the lives every week. But if we can help you get to a lodge that has a culture that you're looking for, then let us know, because we don't want you to feel like you're on an island anymore, because there's so much more to Texas Freemasonry than what one little area can give. We have such a rich history in Texas, and we have so many different cultures within Texas that Freemasonry is in a way it's a lot different in different areas, but in another way, it's beautifully similar. So you can jump into a different culture with a different lodge, a different feel, um, with the same experiences as it in being Texas Freemasonry. Um, this show is a worldwide show, and as I stated earlier, um, we can certainly help you get towards a lodge close to you if you need that. So just let us know. Um, if I tell you that I can't recommend you to a lodge, you have to appreciate that and realize that I'm not going to recommend anyone that I don't know personally. And it's a lot like our process that we go through when someone does ask to become a Mason. When they come to the lodge and they ask to be a Mason, I vet people thoroughly before I'm interested in giving them a petition to the lodge. When people reach out to me by email or on Messenger or whatever online, I vet people thoroughly before I let them into Freemasonry, because it's important to me to hold on to the things that I hold dear. It's important to me to make sure that the person on the other end um, holds those same values to their heart. So, in me asking the questions, don't take offense. You have to understand that I'm protecting something that is more important than me. What I'm protecting is a legacy that has been built upon for, well, now for centuries. This has been built upon, and I'm protecting that legacy. And I'm also protecting the future of Freemasonry in making sure that it's a good fit. So please don't take offense, but feel free to message, and I'm happy to help. That being said, um, if you do want to become an Inner Circle member, it means more than just subscribing. I definitely want you to like and subscribe, but if you want to become an Inner Circle member, it means to click on the join button, and then there's different levels of membership, and there's different values that come with that. There's value adds to each level of membership, all the way up to the point of um, me helping one-on-one um, in a mentorship role, and I'm happy to do that. Um, Other than that, that's about all I've got for tonight. I appreciate you all, and if you Inner Circle members want to stay on for a few minutes after I close this thing out, um, we can talk a little bit about the book club that we'll be doing next week. So, everyone, I love you. Thank you for coming on the show, and keep it between